All right, good morning, everyone, and welcome to our Benefits 101 webinar. We really appreciate you being here, and we are so excited to welcome Kathy Kelly, Benefits Counselor with MassAbility. And we just found out this morning that this is her last presentation ever as a Benefits Counselor with MassAbility. So we are feeling very special about that. So my name is Heather Wood. I am the transition specialist at Newton North, and with me today, co-hosting, is John Curley.
Hi, good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here. Really appreciate you taking the time.
Right. And in the background is Ryan Connors. Thank you so much, Ryan, for doing the recording. And also part of our team is Lisa Goldthwait. She is the transition coordinator for the district. So we are going to be recording, or we are recording the webinar right now. So you will also have access to this afterwards. We'll post it on our website and we'll let everybody know when it's available. So I think without further ado, I will hand it over to Kathy. Thank you so much and welcome.
Right. Hi, everybody. My name is Kathy Kelly. I work at MassAbility under Project Impact. So we are we're benefits counselors available for individuals with receiving public benefits to help you sort out all the issues that you might or might not be having with Social Security benefits. And so I have a slideshow that I put together here that will explain some of the basics of Social Security and other public benefits. So it's a broad brushstroke of the benefits that are available for your sons and daughters or for you. Let's get started. So we'll go with the first slide. Again, we're with MassAbility Project Impact. We have both adult benefits counselors and then student benefits counselors, of which I am. And so we deal with students who are still in school, up through college or post-grad programs. So we provide that personalized benefits analysis for the individuals. And we come to you. So that's the best thing. The benefits counselors can come to the school. We can do these presentations. We can meet with families in their communities. It's a free service. There's no need to pay us. And we can be a big help in times of troubles with Social Security. Next slide. We're going to go to the next one. All right. So I'm going to be talking about two different types of benefits that Social Security administers. The first one is Social Security Disability Insurance. You might have heard it as SSDI. This is actually really Social Security. So when we work over the years and we pay in our Social Security taxes, we are earning quarters towards eventually retiring someday, or maybe unfortunately collecting disability insurance if we become disabled. And so it's based on your work record, how much you're going to get, so how many hours you've worked. Now, I have students who are receiving SSDI that don't have a work record, and they're receiving it likely or from a parent. So the parent would be disabled, retired, or deceased. And the reason they're receiving this is it's SSI, which I will talk to you about, is not Social Security, it's welfare. And Social Security would rather have young people on SSDI because it's not based on taxes. So you will have students that are on SSDI rarely, not often. Most likely they're on SSI. So the nice thing about SSDI is you don't have to worry about what's in the bank, where you have to do that with SSI. And you're eligible for Medicare after 24 months. So the next slide. The other benefit is supplemental security income. It is not Social Security. The acronym is SSI. It's actually paid through the Department of Treasury, and it's actually welfare. So in order to receive this benefit, your son or daughter would have to be poor, low income, and disabled. So they do the same disability eligibility as SSDI, but you have to have less than $2,000 in the bank. We usually have parents applying for this benefit for the first time at age 18, and that's because at that age, your son or daughter are no longer under your roof, so to speak. They're their own adults, and they're likely to be poor. And if they're not, you have to kind of move money around because you can't have more than $2,000 in their name or with a joint account with your name and their name on it. So you're automatically eligible for Mass Health. You don't even have to apply. When you apply for SSI, they automatically vet you for Mass Health. And the payment amount is going to be based on your living arrangement, and I'll show you that in the next slide. So the way it works in 2026 is Social Security has set the full benefit rate of $994 a month. That would be the check that comes to you or your son or daughter on a monthly basis. That's $994 in 2026. We live in Massachusetts, which is known to be an expensive state. So our legislators passed a law called the State Supplement Bill, and that affords families receiving SSI in Massachusetts some extra money. It's actually a supplement. It's run completely opposite of SSI. They don't really have much to do with each other, but you do get a little extra money every month. So the living categories are determined by how much support the individual living is receiving. So the first category, we call it Category A, is living independently. In order to receive the 994 and the state supplement of 114, this individual would be receiving no help or assistance from family or anybody. They are living on their own. These tend to be people that are adults that are disabled, not young people like that we're working with. They're more likely to be in a shared living arrangement, so a shared living with their parents, sharing a home, sharing a room in your home, we call it, or they may be in a residential school, or they might be in a residential program or at college. They still receive the federal benefit rate of $994, but the state supplement is down to $30. I don't know why. These are all over the place, but that's how they do it. And then we have the last category. So Category C, that is household of another, living with parents and not paying their fair share. So if you're not able to demonstrate your son or daughter are contributing to your household expenses, which I can help you do, they are going to take 1/3 off the $994, and that's $662. So, and then they have $87.58 in state supplement. So that's how they do living arrangements. And most young people, when they go on SSI, are given the 662. But there is really a way to I could help you submit some additional paperwork so you could perhaps get the 994. Next slide. The main message of this presentation is you can work and keep your benefits. There's a lot of myths and misinformation out in the world today. With this particular situation, it's filled with them. And a lot of parents, you're out there, you have kids with IEPs and going through lots of different things. You're going to hear from parents, and sometimes that information is incorrect. And one of the things you might hear is that don't let your son or daughter work because they're going to just lose the benefit. Everything you worked for, they're going to lose. And that's not true. So let's go to the next slide. I'm actually going to prove to you in the next few slides that if your son or daughter works while they're in high school, they're going to be better off. They're going to be better off financially, and they're going to be better off and more ready for the future if they try work in high school. So Social Security has work incentives or incentives to get you to think about going to work. So you don't worry about losing your benefits. The best one by far is the Student Earned Income Exclusion, or SEIE. And this is available for students that are students still. So they're either in regular Newton North High School 7 through 12, or they're in the post-grad 18 to 22, or maybe they're in taking a college class, or they're in a Job Corps skills training program, all under age 22. They would be eligible for this incentive, which allows them to make $2,410 gross income a month, and they won't touch the check. So that's a pretty decent amount of monthly gross income with a maximum of $9,730 in a year. So I like this work incentive because if kids have summer internships, maybe they didn't work much during the year because they're focusing on academics or they're not doing work training yet, but they have this great internship where they make a couple $1,000s. This is a great incentive for that. You just have to let Social Security know that your son or daughter is still in school after 18. They automatically assume they're not. They think that everyone's graduating at 18. So Newton can help you with a letter to send to Social Security. But during this period, their check should not be touched. So let's go to the next slide. When they turn 22, remember, it's a means tested benefit, it's welfare, paid from the Department of Treasury. They're going to start to reduce the check. So what they'll do is, we're going to use John as an example. Let's say John is working at TJ Maxx and he's got a gross income of $885 per month, and he's earning that $994 in SSI. We're not going to do the state supplement in this math problem. So the first thing they're going to do is they're going to look at John's Social Security is going to look at the 885, and they're going to disallow. They're not going to count the first $85. So then they're going to look at $800 remaining of John's earned income and cut that in half, essentially. Cut that down to $400. So they're only going to count of his $885, $400 of his countable income, and they'll reduce the check by that amount. So you'll see on the left that his check will be reduced to $594, but he still has that over on the right. He still has his gross earned income. So John is making more money when he works, right? He's making more money and he's paying Social Security taxes. So he's earning quarters towards his own SSDI someday. It's a really good system. So you might be thinking, oh, what happens when John earns so much money that his check goes to zero? That could happen. I don't see it a lot, but it does happen, especially if they get a good deal, a good job. If they are reduced to zero, they will remain eligible for Mass Health. And I have another slide coming up that will explain that. But you will break even, but you'll remain eligible, break even and not get an SSI check anymore, but you stay eligible for Mass Health. Next slide. Some people have out-of-pocket expenses that insurance doesn't cover. So expenses that allow them to work or make it so they can get to work. It could include transportation from their parents or using an Uber. It could be medical supplies or special medication or diet. If these expenses your son or daughter are paying out of pocket, I can help them write those off and have them taken off the countable income, like the where they did the math of the 85 and the cutting it in half. They would cut that expense right off and you'll get more money in your SSI check. This is something you can do with a benefits counselor. We just sit down, put our heads together and think of some items that you could maybe write off. Okay, next slide. This is the rule, the law, 1619B. This is the law that protects Mass Health. So again, parents got together and they passed a law, and this allows for people to stay on Medicaid or Mass Health in Massachusetts, which is so important for our individuals, especially folks who have medical issues. They just have to meet they have to meet this criteria that they earn less than $52,000 in a year. They have to have assets below 2,000, 3,000 if they're married, and they have to remain medically eligible for Mass Health, which they will be because they were born and determined eligible for SSI and Mass Health. They were born with a disability. That doesn't change. Next slide. Reporting to Social Security is really important. Your job as a representative payee will be to report important things to Social Security so they can keep in touch with you and send you lots of fun mail. You need to report when you start or end a job, starting and ending. Any changes in work income, you will be reporting on a monthly basis, your gross income. Any changes to, if there's some child support, alimony, lottery winnings. We have young people, 18, going and gambling now at Encore, and they have to pay taxes on those earnings, and it's a big wake-up call. Changing your living situation. When you move, you have to give them your new address. Or if you are now paying your fair share, which I can help you do, you need to let them know that so you can get more money. And hospitalization. Next slide. Reporting income is going to be crucial, especially if they're on SSI, because they do have to adjust the checks every month. With SSDI, they do not reduce the check when you work. They look at different metrics that I'm not going to go into because it's individualized with people depending on how much they're making and how much they're receiving. But basically, what they do with SSDI is they allow individuals to work and earn up to $1,660 a month. That's a lot for high schoolers. So we usually don't worry about earnings with SSDI while they're in high school. It's more so an issue when you're an adult and you're making more gainful activity income. But with SSI and SSDI, you do have to report, and here's some information on that. You can download an app on your phone and report your wages, earned wages monthly through that. You can fax your wages to your local office. You can call this number here, the 866 number, and they will ask you for some information, and then you report the income that way. The best by far is online. If you nowadays, most people have an online Social Security, MySSA, and they're reporting their income right on the online account. So that would be my recommendation. It's a little bit troublesome with the verification to set up a MySSA account, but it's well worth it. You need to document everything that you're receiving from Social Security and interactions that you have with them. We need this if you're going to reach out to us because we need to know where you stand with the current situation or problem you're having. So having dates that you spoke with people, who you spoke with, what the issue is, those are all things that can benefit you when you start to work with us. So document your visits, keep good records, and report those wages. Next slide. ABLE account. So you've heard already with SSI and Mass Health, you cannot have more than $2,000 in the bank, and they do monitor that. There was a group of parents in the early 2000s that got together and advocated for their sons and daughters to be able to save for their future, and they passed the ABLE Act. And we adopted that in 2014 nationally. And so now you can open these ABLE accounts throughout the country. In Massachusetts, it's done through Fidelity. You can open one in any state that you want, and what you do is you put your savings in there, and you can save up to $19,000 for your son or daughter a year, and on top of that, you can put a little earned income. So this is a great way to save with a tax advantage for the future and not worry about that $2,000. Next slide, I think, is my final. Oh, no, we have another one. So at age 18, you're going to be busy. You're going to be applying for SSI. You're possibly doing guardianship. You're probably going to be applying for adult services. Those are all really important things. I'm going to ask you to do one more thing. I'm going to suggest that you put your son or daughter on federal and state public housing lists. There's a statewide housing list. You can Google it, Massachusetts statewide housing list. It'll come right up, and you put their names on it, and then you wait. It can be up to, you may have heard, it can be up to 10 years for some counties to have vouchers that open up. But when they do, it affords your son or daughter, some assistance or subsidy for their rent. They would only pay 30% of their gross earned income in rent. So that's a huge savings. And those are portable. Some of those vouchers you can take to any community, or you can use them with your DDS state services to move into residential homes. Another great benefit is SNAP or food stamps, and that's a federal benefit that's available beginning at age 22. So for some reason, you can't get it till you're 22. But the good thing is when you have SSI, they've already vetted you for SNAP. So it's a super simple process. You just fill out the application and they quickly get them on SNAP. And that's a wonderful thing to have for self-advocacy and self-determination to be able to shop for themselves. Okay, the next slide. And that's the end. These are my contact information. I am available till May 4th with MassAbility. I strongly encourage people to reach out to me, especially if you have. I noticed there were a bunch of questions about Mass Health or some interest in learning more about Mass Health. If you reach out to me, we can do more of an individualized conversation on what benefits you should be applying for. And then when I retire, I'm going to be consulting, and I will share my information with the team at Newton North. Are there any questions?
Kathy, thank you very much. If folks have questions, you can feel free to put them into the chat. Um, while we wait, Kathy, I have a question for you just in terms of just general eligibility
Mhm.
for like SSI, SSDI. What defines disability? Does it have to be present from birth? Could it be something that's acquired in childhood, sort of, and what documentation might folks need to sort of submit to SSA?
That's a really good, very important, most important question to ask. And what you're trying to determine. So there are people with disabilities who work gainfully, and there's never a problem. So we're not saying they're not going to be able to work. However, when they're being determined eligible or not, they're looking at the amount of work they can do, their ability to work substantially. I mentioned $1,660. That's this year's SGA, we call it, substantial gainful activity. So if your son or daughter, you feel they're going to struggle to maintain full-time gainful employment for their life, and you can prove that through documentation, then they'll become eligible. So documentation would look like maybe the school writing a letter saying that they don't have much job experience and they need significant support to find and maintain a job, or they need XYZ in order to maintain a job. Any kind of language that talks about that is so important because they're just going to make a subjective decision based on the numbers, so IQ and all that. And so if yes, you can get it if you acquire a disability, but it all comes down to how disabled you are and how does it impact your work.
Got it.
So
Thank.
yeah, some kids going off to college. So some of our young people may be going to community college and so when they apply, Social Security is going to look at them and say, well, wait a minute, they're going to college. They haven't worked yet. How do we know? And if they're going to work or not, we can't really make that determination. And sometimes they'll determine them not eligible. So we really want to have that language and help from like maybe MassAbility or Work Opportunities or whoever you're working with to write those letters for them.
Got it. Okay, that's super helpful.
Yep.
Um, Another question is, can you talk a little bit more and go back and talk about the ABLE accounts and sort of the limits in terms of annual or overall
Yep.
capacity
Yep.
and what the money can and can't be used for?
Sure. I'm not an expert in ABLE, but I do know a fair amount about it. I suggest that anybody that wants to learn more about the National ABLE account is to go to the National ABLE Resource Center or the ABLE National Resource Center. They're a great like a dashboard, and they'll help you answer a lot of these questions. But basically, you can put a maximum right now, because this could change, a maximum of $100,000 into an ABLE account if you're on SSI. People on SSDI open these accounts because they're on Mass Health, but they're not limited to that amount. So it's just the SSI or the folks that are limited. They can save $19,000 a year in 2026. They can save, I'm not exactly sure, but around 12,000 of their earned income. They can put an additional amount in. And so it's really good for saving for the future. Another great thing is with Fidelity in Massachusetts, there's no fees, where some of the states have fees. They have a line of credit or a cash management account where you have a debit card like you would have on your own checking account. And so a student or a young adult could have a line of credit. So you can, as a parent, put $500 in that line of credit for them to pay for expenses. And you can use it for pretty much anything as long as it pertains to you. I haven't heard anyone get questions or challenges on that ever. I wouldn't go crazy and take all your friends to Aruba, but I would not worry so much about it. And so, yeah, so I think I answered all the questions.
Yes, thank you. That was super helpful.
Yeah.
And then another question is, whether or not having a high school diploma or receiving a high school diploma would jeopardize eligibility for SSI or SSDI. Do they look at that, or would they really just look at metrics like IQ, test scores, and the other documentation?
I'm going to say they should be looking at everything. Do they always? No, it's very subjective. It could be the person didn't have enough coffee that morning when he's making the decision. That's why it's up to you as a parent to stay with the game and provide all that extra information. A high school diploma could raise a red flag and they could say, oh, nope. But if they have supporting evidence that they're really struggling, and we have lots of students who earn diplomas who are borderline and are unable to maintain job because of complex decision making and reading and things like that. So, the more information you can provide as a parent, if a parent is listening now and they haven't applied, another thing that can happen during eligibility is it first goes to what's called medical determination, and so that's when you are MassAbility, Social Security is looking at all that evidence. And sometimes the doctors don't send it in, or the school district didn't send it in. And so they make a decision based on not complete information. So if you can help as a parent, make sure, let the doctors know they're going to be reached out to. Get those letters going. Call me. I can help them think of other people to support them. So too much information is always good.
Yep, that's super helpful.
Yeah,
And we for the attendees, we put Kathy's contact information in the chat. So if you want to access that, and as Kathy said, she's available through May 4th, and then Kathy is heading off into retirement, but will still be available to consult. And we'll share that contact information out as well when we get it. Uh,
thanks.
Kathy, can I ask a quick question? Can families go directly to you, or do they have to be found eligible for MassAbility first in order to get connected?
I don't mind people calling me to check in with how to apply. I can't help you apply, but I will tell parents, don't do it online. Right now, don't do the online application. Call the Cambridge Social Security office or your local office and say, I want an appointment to apply online. I want an appointment for an interview over the phone, or I want to come in. And if they say, well, we only do it online, you can say, well, I don't have a computer. Like you'll have to say a little white lie. And so they have to call you. Right now, it's taking about a month to get an appointment, but it's going to be an easier process and a faster process if you do that. Heather, I'll send you the checklist of the things parents need to prepare for a interview, and you can send that to the families.
Perfect.
And I
Yeah.
think oh, sorry, go ahead, John.
No, please.
I just saw another question in the chat, and it was that so if a student is already 18 and the parent has says that nothing really has been done yet, will that checklist kind of help to guide like where should they start is
Yeah,
the question.
yeah. Don't worry that you didn't start at 18. You're doing a lot at age 18. SSI is just going to give you that extra income, so you can be motivated to do that. And you're setting your son or daughter up for a future with some extra supplemental income. And you know what? When they finish high school, it's no longer eligibility. You're eligible, but it's not guaranteed. So you want as much money as you can coming in. So it's never too late to do guardianship or anything.
Good. That's great. And do you ever connect individuals or talk to them more about like adult foster care? I know that name can be a little bit deceiving.
Yes, it is a tough one. I used to work for an agency that provides it, so I know about it. So that's AFC, and that's through Mass Health. So you would have to have Mass Health, and that gives families, parents, income for caring for their son or daughter in your home. And they have to be eligible through needing support with 3 of the 7 major ADLs. I think
Yes.
I'm around about right there. And so like prompting to take a shower, cooking safely and things like that. So you as a parent could receive a stipend in your name, not their name. So it wouldn't be income for them. And it's a really good deal. The only thing, Heather, is they can't be guardians and an AFC provider. So if you're a single parent, you're doomed. That's really too sad.
So hard,
Yeah,
definitely. It's like another family member could be
yeah.
thing. But I'm going to put the link to the website for the adult foster care just for more information if
Excellent. Yeah, more money.
right. I mean, having a disability can be incredibly expensive. So
Yep.
it is possible to, really take advantage of these programs that are put in place just for that support.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I'll put a plug in for some of these agencies, not all of them will be at our transition fair, which is coming up on in early May on Wednesday, May 6th at Newton North. And so we'll have some folks from MassAbility and a couple of other agencies around housing and things. So Wednesday, May 6th at 6 o'clock at Newton North, we'll have our transition fair. And so that's another opportunity to get contacts with some of these folks and agencies and learn a little bit more about adult services and other things. Kathy, another question is if a student or a young adult that already has SSDI, should families wait to apply to SSI until the individual is 19? What's sort of the time frame for sort of applying for both?
So you're talking about someone who would be a student who's receiving it under age 19. So their parents became disabled, retired, or passed away, and
Mhm.
they become eligible for SSDI as a dependent. So they would be eligible not based on a disability. All siblings would get it. It's a dependent benefit. So when they turn 18, they need to identify with Social Security that they have a disability. They're an adult with a disability. And so Social Security isn't going to call you and say, hey, it's time to apply. You need to reach out. Sometimes they do. You never know, but most likely you have to reach out and you say, okay, my son is he's still in high school and he's disabled. We would like to apply, and they will stay on SSDI. They won't have to apply for SSI because that's remember they want to pay them that before welfare or SSI. Some parents or some might be collecting, like some parents' work records might have been very low and they're not making above $994 in their SSDI, they will supplement a little SSI. It's not the best situation receiving both, but they will do that. And the
Is it
good thing is when a student starts to work, even if it's just part-time, they're earning quarters for themselves. And
right?
I've seen students, who work 5, 10 hours a week end up on their own SSDI in a few years.
Okay. Would it
Yeah.
make sense to wait? Is there a downside to applying right away or waiting until, another year or two after turning 18 for SSI? Or is it just as you get as much as you can right away?
Yeah, I think you answered
Yeah.
it. Do
Okay.
it as soon as you. Some parents, if I'm working with a single parent and they're doing guardianship and DDS eligibility and a bunch of other stuff, I'll say hold off on SSI if they don't really need it.
Yeah.
But if they need it, that's over $1,000 of income every month.
Okay. Got it.
Kathy, can I ask a quick question? I've heard of Ticket to Work. Is that still
Mhm.
a program that's happening? And maybe just to touch on that for a
Yeah.
minute.
Ticket to work, don't even pay attention to.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, it's a
To
slogan that's gone way too much, too much. Ticket to work basically is an incentive for people to get off the couch and go to work. It's for the people who are not trying to work, like our students want to work. And what it does is it gets people to look for a job, and the only incentive is that they won't do a continuing work review on you for during the period that you assign your ticket to MassAbility. And none of our kids don't get work continuing disability reviews. They get them every 7 years. So it's really not it's nothing you need to worry about. When you hear ticket to work, just tell people don't worry about it.
Okay, that's good to know.
Okay. They need to get rid of it.
Any other questions? And if there are additional questions after we've logged off, feel free to either connect with Kathy or reach
Yes.
out to me.
Yep.
And we're happy to answer questions or connect you with people who will.
Yeah, please
Okay.
reach out to me. You might think of something after this, or you didn't want to ask it over this presentation. So just reach out to me. I'm pretty quick. I can get back to you pretty quick and help you work through this.
A question just popped up about mass health. And so Do people have to wait until they're 18 to apply?
Nope.
Okay, what?
Now, go ahead and get Mass Health now if you need it. Like Mass Health is really good. It's a good supplemental insurance, especially for autism, and it can pay, for extra services. It could fund your AFC, your adult family care, and it's a great benefit. So I would, get them on it if you feel like they could benefit it. Otherwise, wait because they'll just get it with SSI.
Okay. I have a question, and it's a little bit of a loaded question, but I think it's probably on a lot of our minds. The amounts change every year, right? In
Mhm.
terms of the supplement and what the amount that people get. Is there what sort of the how much does it go up every year? Is it like $20, 1%? And in your sort of reading the tea leaves, is there a risk of that money going away or getting cut given the political situation that we're in right now?
Oh God, John, I'm not a prophet. So it goes up percentage wise, so like $40, 2% maybe, because SSDI goes up and SSI goes up. State supplement never goes up. It's a state law locked in. It goes up. It's not a huge amount. What we're hoping and praying for is that $2,000 limit will change. But right now we're working with an administration who doesn't even like Medicaid and Mass Health. So I'm not sure what's going on. When you ask that question, I see um, programs, like bits and pieces of Mass Health being cut, but not the whole program.
Yeah. Okay. Thank
It
you.
might be harder to get AFC hours or PCA hours, or I don't know what they're doing.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It feels a little bit like death by a thousand paper cuts.
Yeah, they're also they made huge cuts in Social Security, so they're really working in skeletal crews.
Yeah.
You could have a janitor pick up the phone and say
Right.
hello.
Yeah. All the more reason to start soon and
Yes.
wait. Yeah. Okay.
And work with us, call us because you'll get a letter. You're going to get a lot of letters in the mail from Social Security. And usually the first 3 pages are the only important pages, and the last five you can throw out. So working with us and helping, we can help you keep accurate records. Don't keep too much, but keep good records.
Yep. Okay. Thank you.
It's
Um,
worth the effort.
yep. We have about 5 more minutes if folks have other questions. Kathy, is it okay if we send the presentation to families and let them know sort of the information does fluctuate from year to year?
Yep. Just put it in there, put it in there, and then I'm gonna wait to send that. I'll send you the checklist.
Yep, will do.
Okay.
And Kathy, I know you had mentioned PCA services through Mass Health. I think we had a question submitted from a family member that was asking or before our webinar, asking the procedure with Mass Health and how long it takes to kind of get set up.
So you would have to meet with a providing agency that provides AFC in your area, and they have a social worker and a nurse. They have a team, and the team you apply with an application, and then the team does their assessments of at the home, and they determine eligibility based on that. And then there's levels of eligibility. I think there's two levels, maximum and minimum, and that determines how much need they have and how much money they'll get.
Great.
I don't know how long the process is taking.
Either right now.
Yeah. And then periodically they'll come into your home and visit to just check in. Like, yeah.
Mhm.
I find families, it's very easy to manage.
Yeah,
And then you have this extra money to spend on caregiving and durable goods or whatever you want to have for your son or daughter.
definitely. Absolutely.
Um, as we think about wrapping up, Kathy, for families out there that are sort of in the initial stages or thinking about it, what would be your recommendation for like a first step, right? Like we're going to send out that checklist, but what would be sort of like a first, start here moment?
Yep. The first thing you want to do is make sure those bank accounts there's no surprises. So I can't tell you how many times people got everything ready and they forgot that Uncle John gave them bonds. when they
Mhm.
were born. And then that bond is maturing somewhere, and then the IRS red flags it, sends it to Social Security, and you're not eligible. Or they could find it after you're eligible and then take your benefit away. It's just crazy. So get rid of the 2000, get the bank accounts in order. Don't have too many bank accounts. Just have one. You're going to need one with a checking account to have the checks deposited into. So you could set that up. You know, your local bank, you're going to be the rep payee for your son or daughter. So put an account open with both your names on it. Get that all set up, and call me, and I can walk you through what to do. That's what I do. Yeah. Oh, call doctors, and we're going to be applying. Could you make sure when you get that request that you send it out? It's really important.
Yep. Um, Money and special needs trusts, is that separate? Can that be touched, or is that sort of protected?
It depends on how you set up the trust. So I'm not a trust expert, but they usually aren't, most of them aren't funded till death. That is, so it has to be set up protected so they can't count it as 2000.
Yep.
So I usually don't worry about trust because I count on the lawyers taking care of that. And then the ABLE accounts are secure by law, by the federal law.
And you mentioned the term rep payee. Could you just give a quick
Yeah.
definition of what that is and how that gets set up?
Sure. So this is separate from guardianship. When you apply for SSI, there's a lot of paperwork and there's a lot of responsibility with managing those checks that come in. So Social Security is going to review your son or daughter and decide whether or not they need representation in order to manage their benefits. And if they decide that they need representation, they will ask for one of you, a parent, to become the representative payee. If there's not a parent, there are private agencies or nonprofits that will provide that resource. But it has nothing to do with guardianship, but it's something that it's a lot of responsibility to manage that money. And so they want to make sure it's being done.
Got it. Thank you.
Any other questions for Kathy before we start wrapping up? I know this was a lot of information. I think I was definitely a little overwhelmed at first, and I'm so glad that we were able to have this opportunity to kind of clarify and ask some questions and go into some more details. So everyone knows that Kathy is available. You have her contact information, and John and I are available. So like I said before, if any other questions come up after the fact or after our webinar, then we're more than happy to address and help you, support you
Yeah.
in the process.
Yeah, I saw a bunch of people they drop the ball, they want to get started. Call me. We'll get the ball started together.
I think you're going to be a busy woman in the next
It
few.
happens after presentations. I'm usually busy for about a week, and I will
Yeah,
call you back.
good, good. It's always helpful. All right,
Yeah.
excellent.
Yeah. Kathy, thank you. I learn so many new things every time I hear you present. And so
Oh, good. Thanks.
it is so helpful. And I'm sure for families out there that are going through this, it's invaluable. So I appreciate you very much for being here.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
All right.
Thank you and
Great.
happy retirement.
Happy
We're
retirement.
happy
Yay.
for you. And thank you to all of our participants who were here. Thank you, Ryan, for recording. I think we can wrap that up now.